You know these coffee brands. They dominate grocery shelves. People trust them. They're convenient, heavily marketed, and often priced like premium beans. But after digging into labels, testing freshness, and brewing these in real kitchens, what I found is alarming. Some of these products are barely coffee in anything recognizable as quality form. The category is messy, confusing, and deliberately misleading. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good. Let's go through the brands you should avoid, ranked from worst to slightly less terrible. And I'll explain why they fail in real use. People trust Starbucks. They see the name and assume quality will carry over from the cafe experience into their home brewing. Pike Place Roast is one of the most recognizable options on grocery shelves, and that familiarity makes people reach for it without thinking. They're expecting a smooth, balanced cup, something that replicates the in-store experience. But what arrives in the bag is a very different story. The beans are pre-ground and often weeks, if not months, old by the time they hit your countertop. Coffee starts to lose flavor the moment it's ground, and packaging can only slow oxidation slightly. It doesn't stop it. What you end up with is a muted, flat cup that has none of the depth or complexity you associate with Starbucks coffee. The packaging design cleverly suggests freshness, the bold labels, the use of terms like medium roast and balanced flavor. But that's marketing, not reality. Brewing it in a standard drip machine only emphasizes how weak and watery it is. Even if you use more than the recommended amount, it struggles to produce a satisfying aroma or lasting taste. Many buyers don't realize they're paying a premium for a brand rather than for quality beans or roasting precision. In side-by-side tastings with freshly roasted alternatives, Pike Place falls short in aroma, body, and finish. The product exploits trust, relying on name recognition to justify a price that isn't matched by actual coffee performance. For consumers who care about flavor, freshness, or real brewing results, this is a clear example of how marketing can override reality. Reading the bag and checking roast date, or choosing whole beans instead, changes everything. Starbucks Pike Place packaged ground coffee is a textbook case of brand trust being leveraged against the consumer's interest in quality. It's convenient and familiar, but for anyone serious about coffee, it's consistently underwhelming and overpriced. Folgers Classic Roast is one of the most recognized coffee brands in the United States. People buy it because it's familiar, inexpensive, and widely available, often associating the name with reliability and consistency. It's marketed as a dependable everyday coffee, but the reality inside the bag tells a different story. The beans are industrially roasted in massive batches to ensure shelf stability, which comes at the cost of flavor. Over-roasting masks imperfections, but it also destroys the subtle oils that give coffee its aroma and body. By the time it reaches the consumer, the grounds are often stale, having lost a significant portion of their original taste profile. Brewing Folgers Classic in a drip machine reveals a thin, flat cup that lacks the richness and depth coffee enthusiasts expect. Even using more grounds or stronger ratios doesn't compensate for the way the beans have been processed. The result is consistently weak and sometimes bitter, depending on water quality and brewing method. Part of the reason people continue to buy it is familiarity. Folgers has been in homes for generations, and the brand conveys trust. But that trust is largely based on recognition and marketing rather than actual quality. Pricing is low compared to specialty coffees, but in reality, you're paying for convenience, shelf life, and brand reputation, not a satisfying flavor experience. In practical terms, the coffee fails in everyday use because it doesn't deliver the aroma, body, or lasting taste needed to make a morning cup enjoyable. The verdict is simple. If your priority is flavor or freshness, Folgers Classic Roast falls short. It's a reminder that brand trust does not equal quality, and that decades of market dominance can mask significant shortcomings in taste and performance. For consumers willing to check labels and consider roast dates or explore alternatives, there are much better options that provide a genuinely satisfying cup for only a little more investment. Starbucks Via Instant is marketed as a convenient, premium option for coffee on the go. People buy it because it carries the Starbucks name, promising the flavor and quality associated with the cafe experience. But the reality is very different. Via is instant coffee, which means the beans undergo heavy processing to become soluble granules. This process strips away much of the complexity, oils, and aromas that make coffee enjoyable. The marketing emphasizes Starbucks quality in seconds, but instant processing cannot replicate the depth of flavor from freshly brewed beans. When you prepare a cup, even using the correct proportions, the result is thin and lacks body. The aroma is muted, and any subtle notes that might have existed in the original roast are largely gone. People often overlook this because the packaging suggests freshness, balance, and cafe-level taste. But these are illusions. The convenience comes at a cost. Flavor, richness, and mouthfeel are all sacrificed for speed. Even seasoned coffee drinkers find it disappointing when comparing Via to freshly ground coffee or even whole bean brewed at home. Price versus value is another problem. Starbucks charges a premium for this instant coffee, leveraging brand trust and the perception of quality. Yet the actual experience does not justify the cost. The product appeals to those who want a quick cup, but for anyone who cares about taste, it consistently underperforms. Using it in recipes, lattes, or even black coffee highlights its limitations. It dissolves quickly, sure, but it fails to contribute meaningful flavor or aroma. In a taste comparison, it ranks far below freshly roasted, properly brewed alternatives. Starbucks Via Instant demonstrates how strong branding can overshadow real product quality, convincing consumers to pay for convenience over genuine flavor. For people serious about coffee, it's a compromise that rarely delivers satisfaction, and the value equation is skewed toward marketing rather than actual performance. Dunkin' Original Blend K-Cups are everywhere, and many people buy them for the convenience of single-serve brewing and the familiarity of the Dunkin' brand. The idea is simple. Pop a pod into your Keurig, press a button, and get a cup of coffee that supposedly reflects the flavor you'd expect from a chain. But what consumers rarely realize is that the coffee inside these pods is pre-ground, compressed, and often stored for months before it reaches the home. K-Cups are convenient, yes, but the freshness of the coffee suffers significantly in the process. The packaging seals the coffee from air, but it cannot fully preserve the volatile oils and aromas that make coffee taste vibrant. Brewing a Dunkin' Original Blend K-Cup in a standard single-serve machine produces a cup that is thin, flat, and sometimes a little bitter. Even if you adjust the machine to use less water or brew extra strong, the results are limited by the quality and age of the grounds. People continue to buy them because the pods promise consistency and convenience and the brand carries weight, but in real-world use, the coffee does not match expectations. The price point for a box of pods is significantly higher than buying equivalent whole beans or freshly ground coffee, yet the flavor payoff is much lower. This is a clear case where marketing and ease of use outweigh actual product performance. It's convenient for busy mornings, but the quality is compromised and the price-to-value ratio is poor. For anyone who actually cares about flavor or the brewing experience, K-Cups like Dunkin' Original Blend are underwhelming. They work in a pinch, but they are not a reliable way to enjoy coffee at its best. Consumers are paying more for the illusion of quality and brand familiarity rather than an authentic, satisfying cup. Understanding this helps make better choices and avoid paying for convenience that comes at the expense of taste. Chock-full o' nuts coffee is often picked up for its affordability and long shelf life. People buy it because it's cheap, widely available, and has been a household name for decades. On paper, it promises a reliable everyday cup of coffee, but the reality in the cup is quite different. The beans are roasted in a way that maximizes longevity rather than flavor. To achieve this extended shelf life, the coffee is roasted aggressively, which burns off much of the natural oils and nuances that give coffee character. When brewed, Chock-full o' nuts delivers a thin, one-dimensional cup that lacks complexity. It has a flat, almost lifeless taste, and the aroma is weak compared to fresher options. Even when following standard brewing instructions or increasing the amount of grounds, the coffee fails to produce a satisfying body or lasting flavor. People continue to buy it because the price is low and the brand is familiar, but the low cost masks the fact that you're sacrificing taste and freshness. In practical terms, it performs adequately for getting caffeine into your system, but it fails for anyone who wants a proper coffee experience. The packaging and branding do little to indicate the compromises made to achieve this price point and shelf stability. In side-by-side comparisons with fresher, well-roasted beans, the difference is immediately noticeable. For consumers who don't pay attention to roast dates or origin, chock-full of nuts can seem acceptable, but anyone who has tasted quality coffee will recognize how bland it is. Price versus actual value is poor because you're paying for quantity and longevity rather than flavor or freshness. This coffee is fine for filling a pot quickly or for a household where taste isn't a priority, but for anyone seeking real quality, it consistently underperforms. Understanding what you're buying. Beans roasted for longevity rather than flavor can save money, frustration, and disappointment in your morning cup. McCafe Medium Roast is widely recognized because of the McDonald's brand behind it. People buy it for familiarity, perceived consistency, and the assumption that it mirrors the coffee served at the restaurants. The appeal lies in convenience and the trust associated with a globally known brand. However, once you examine the product more closely, it becomes clear that the coffee is designed for volume and shelf stability, not for flavor or freshness. The beans are roasted in large industrial batches, which ensures long shelf life, but compromises the natural oils and aromas that make coffee enjoyable. By the time the bag reaches a consumer's kitchen, much of the subtlety and character has already been lost. Brewing McCafe Medium Roast in a drip machine results in a cup that is muted, flat, and lacking the depth found in freshly roasted alternatives. Even if you adjust brewing methods or increase the amount of grounds, the flavor does not improve significantly because the core issue is the processing and storage of the beans. People continue to buy it because the brand is trusted, the price is reasonable, and it promises an everyday, dependable cup. But the reality is that you are paying for convenience and brand familiarity rather than quality or taste. When used in practical situations, whether for a quick morning cup or in recipes, the coffee underperforms. Its aroma is weak, the body is thin, and it does not contribute meaningfully to beverages that require flavor complexity. McCafe Medium Roast is a product that capitalizes on brand recognition while delivering only moderate performance. For consumers who prioritize taste, freshness, and brewing results, it consistently falls short. Understanding the limitations of prepackaged, mass-produced coffee like this allows buyers to make informed decisions and avoid overpaying for a cup that does not meet expectations. Pete's Major Dickinson's Blend Pre-Ground is often purchased for its reputation as a rich, full-bodied coffee. People are drawn to it because Pete's markets it as a gourmet, carefully crafted blend, and the name carries weight among coffee enthusiasts. The expectation is that buying this pre-ground option will deliver a complex, flavorful experience similar to what you would get from freshly roasted beans. However, the reality is that pre-ground coffee loses freshness quickly, and this product is no exception. By the time it reaches your kitchen, much of the aroma and subtle flavor notes have already dissipated. The coffee is roasted with care, but once ground, it begins to oxidize, and the oils that contribute to body and richness degrade over time. Brewing Major Dickinson's Blend Pre-Ground reveals a muted cup that lacks the vibrancy and depth of flavor that whole bean versions provide. Even following precise measurements or brewing methods, the coffee performs only moderately because the loss of freshness is intrinsic to the pre-ground format. People continue to buy it because the brand is trusted, the flavor profile is familiar, and it carries a reputation for quality. But in practical use, it falls short for anyone who expects the nuances advertised. Price versus performance is another concern. You are paying for Pete's name and the perceived gourmet quality, but the experience does not reflect that premium. In side-by-side comparisons with freshly ground beans from the same roast, the difference is obvious. Aroma is diminished, body is thin, and the cup lacks the layered flavors that should be present. This product demonstrates how branding and reputation can mask the limitations of pre-ground coffee. For those who care about taste, investing in whole beans and grinding them just before brewing makes a substantial difference. whereas Major Dickinson's pre-ground blend only approximates the intended flavor, leaving consumers with a weaker, less satisfying cup. Keurig's Green Mountain Dark Roast K-Cups are widely purchased for their convenience and the reputation of the Green Mountain brand. People reach for them expecting a bold, rich coffee experience that matches the packaging promises. But what they get is often underwhelming. The coffee inside these pods is pre-ground, compressed, and sealed weeks or months before use, which dramatically affects freshness. The roasting process is industrial, designed to ensure consistency and shelf stability rather than to preserve flavor nuances. When brewed in a Keurig machine, the coffee produces a cup that is bitter, thin, and lacking in the depth that consumers expect from a dark roast. Even adjusting the amount of water or brewing multiple pods does little to improve the taste because the issue lies in the age of the grounds and the limitations of the pod format itself. Many buyers trust the brand and the dark roast label, assuming that it guarantees a rich and satisfying cup, but in reality, the pods prioritize convenience over performance. Price is another factor. These K-Cups are sold at a premium compared to bulk ground coffee or freshly roasted beans. Yet the flavor payoff does not justify the cost. The product works for people who need a quick caffeine fix, but it consistently underperforms in terms of aroma, body, and overall taste. Recipes or specialty drinks also suffer because the coffee lacks the oils and richness needed to carry flavor. This is a classic example of a brand leveraging recognition and convenience while masking significant compromises in quality. Consumers expecting a genuine dark roast experience are frequently disappointed. For anyone serious about coffee, understanding that K-Cups trade freshness and flavor for speed and simplicity is critical. Choosing freshly ground beans or whole bean options provides a cup that better reflects the characteristics advertised and ensures that the price paid is actually matched by performance in the mug. Nescafé Taster's Choice has long been marketed as a smooth, convenient instant coffee, appealing to people who want a quick cup without the fuss of brewing. Many buyers are drawn to it because it promises a premium coffee experience in seconds, and the brand name carries weight in households familiar with Nescafé. However, the reality of what's in the jar is far from the rich, nuanced coffee that consumers imagine. Taster's Choice is instant coffee, meaning the beans undergo extensive processing to become soluble granules. This process strips away much of the coffee's natural oils, aroma, and complexity, leaving behind a product that dissolves easily but tastes flat and watered down. Brewing it according to instructions produces a cup that is thin, lacking in body, and fails to deliver the depth or richness found in freshly brewed alternatives. The marketing suggests a smooth, café-like flavor, but this is more perception than reality. The price point is another concern. Nescafé charges a premium relative to the quality delivered, leveraging brand trust to justify the cost. In side-by-side comparisons with freshly roasted or even pre-ground coffee, Taster's Choice falls short in aroma, flavor complexity, and overall satisfaction. People continue to purchase it for convenience and familiarity, but the trade-off is significant. Using it in recipes or specialty drinks also highlights its shortcomings, as it cannot provide the flavor intensity needed to stand up to milk, syrups, or other ingredients. For someone who genuinely values taste and quality, this instant coffee consistently underperforms and does not reflect the promises made on the label. It is a product designed to meet convenience needs, not flavor expectations. Understanding this distinction is essential for consumers, as paying for Nescafé Taster's Choice means choosing speed over satisfaction and settling for a cup that is convenient but ultimately unremarkable. Starbucks Via Instant is positioned as a premium, convenient coffee solution, and many people purchase it expecting a taste that reflects the quality associated with Starbucks cafes. The appeal is obvious. It promises the flavor of Starbucks in a fraction of the time, perfect for busy mornings or travel. However, the reality of Via Instant is that it is, at its core, instant coffee, which inherently limits flavor and complexity. To become soluble, the coffee undergoes extensive processing that removes much of its natural oils, aromas, and subtle flavor notes. The result is a product that dissolves quickly but produces a thin, flat cup lacking depth and richness. Consumers are often drawn to the brand and the promise of convenience, overlooking the fact that no amount of packaging or marketing can replace the nuances lost in the instant process. Brewing via instant according to instructions produces a cup that is serviceable for a quick caffeine fix, but it cannot replicate the layered flavors of freshly ground or whole bean coffee. Even when mixed with milk or used in lattes, the coffee lacks the body and intensity needed to stand up to other ingredients, resulting in a diluted, uninspiring beverage. Price is another factor that does not align with value. Starbucks charges a premium for the convenience and brand recognition, yet the experience fails to match what the label implies. The product relies heavily on brand trust and the perception of quality to justify its cost, masking the compromises in flavor and freshness. For consumers serious about coffee, Via Instant demonstrates the trade-offs inherent in instant products. Speed and convenience come at the expense of taste, aroma, and overall satisfaction. Understanding this allows buyers to make informed decisions and avoid paying a premium for a cup that consistently underperforms relative to freshly brewed alternatives. Starbucks Pike Place ground coffee is one of the most trusted names in the coffee aisle, and many people buy it expecting the same rich, fresh experience they get in Starbucks cafes. The packaging, branding, and name all suggest a high-quality, freshly roasted product, which makes it easy for consumers to assume they are getting a premium cup at home. However, the reality is very different. Pike Place in pre-ground form loses freshness rapidly. The moment coffee is ground, it begins to oxidize, and by the time it reaches your kitchen, much of the aroma, oils, and subtle flavor notes have already degraded. Brewing it in a standard drip machine reveals a flat, muted cup that lacks the depth, body, and complexity that the Starbucks brand promises. Many buyers continue to purchase it because they trust the name and associate it with the cafe experience. But in truth, the product relies more on branding than actual performance. The packaging cleverly suggests freshness with bold labels and appealing design, but the reality is that pre-ground beans cannot retain the same quality as whole beans roasted and ground shortly before use. Price is another concern. Pike Place is sold at a premium relative to other grocery store coffees, yet the cup you get does not justify the cost. Even increasing the amount of coffee or adjusting brewing techniques cannot overcome the limitations imposed by pre-grinding and packaging. The coffee underperforms in everyday use, whether consumed black or incorporated into lattes and other beverages, failing to deliver the rich flavor and aroma consumers expect. Starbucks Pike Place ground coffee exemplifies how brand trust can be leveraged to sell a product that does not match the quality implied by its name. For those serious about flavor, freshness, and value, understanding these limitations is essential to making informed purchasing decisions and avoiding disappointment in the morning cup. On the flip side, there are clean options worth trusting. Counterculture, Blue Bottle, Stumptown, and Intelligentsia all deliver freshness, proper roasting, and transparent sourcing. They cost a bit more, but the flavor and consistency justify it. The rule is simple. Read the label for a few seconds. Look for roast date, origin, and avoid pre-ground beans that sit on shelves for months. That's it. Stop letting marketing dictate your coffee, and your mornings will taste better while saving you money.